Shake dreams from your hair, my pretty child, my sweet one. Choose the day and choose the sign of your day, the day's divinity. First thing you see. A vast, radiant beach and a cool, jeweled moon. Couples naked race down by its quiet side. And we laugh like soft, mad children, smug in the woolly cotton brains of infancy. The music and voices are all around us. Choose, they croon, the ancient ones, the time has come again. Choose now, they croon, beneath the moon, beside an ancient lake. Enter again the sweet forest, enter the hot dream, come with us. Everything is broken up in dances. Indians scattered on dawn's highway bleeding, ghosts crowd the young child's fragile eggshell mind.
Good morning. Welcome to Uncle Benny's Creepy Campfire Stories. I'm your host, Uncle Benny. Today is Wednesday, August 21st, 2019, Anno Domini, the year of our Lord, as it were. So today, do something a little different, and hopefully going to whip on through this because I'm a bit behind my own schedule here. I want to read you something. I've talked about why I'm doing this, first of all, for my own edification, because I'd gotten rusty and I wanted to share. I just felt be important to share. You know, I realize, and I don't mean this, I say this in all humility. I realize that I read things different than most people that I know. I'm definitely not the only one, but most people that I know, when I look at the news, my take or perception of things starts off right on a different keel than most people. So I want to read to you something from Charles Spurgeon that is has a lot to do with why I'm doing this and what I've experienced while doing this. And I do intend to wrap this up September 5th because it's been a good exercise, but it is time consuming and it's something that it's been good for me to do, but it's not something I want to continue to do. Not why I started this channel. It may be something I do on occasion, but not a daily thing. Not like trying to get in shape, doing a workout every day or a few times a week, which is kind of what it's been. So let me start here. Proverbs 11:25. Bible say, "He that watereth shall be watered also himself." By the way, I no longer self-edit in writing or in speech, King James version stuff. So deal with it, okay? If you're irreligious, bye-bye. If that bugs you, see ya. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for stopping by. Make a great day. Really, it's not that big a deal, but people do get all bent out of shape when they hear the King James English. Well, these thys and thous, I just can't stomach them. Well, you know what? I don't have the precious time anymore to which is what I used to do, especially when I was writing it. When I copy a verse out, or in whatever I was writing, or a comment, whatever, I would polish it a bit just to make it a little bit more digestible, or a little sweeter, because I do get it a little rough around the edges. Anyway, so he that watereth shall be watered also himself. Start again. He that watereth shall be watered also himself. We are here taught a great lesson, that to get we must give, that to accumulate we must scatter, that to make ourselves happy we must make others happy, that in order to become spiritually vigorous we must seek the spiritual good of others. In watering others we are ourselves watered. How? Our efforts to be useful bring out our powers for usefulness. We all, and I'm ad-libbing a bit just to make this more universal for people who I'm reading it to, who I'm listening, right? We all have latent talents and dormant faculties, which are brought to light by exercise. Our strength for labor is hidden even from ourselves until we venture forth to fight the Lord's battles or to climb the mountains of difficulty. We do not know what tender sympathies we possess until we try to dry the widow's tears or soothe the orphan's grief. We often find in attempting to teach others that we gain instruction for ourselves. Oh, what gracious lessons some of us have learned at sickbeds. When we went to teach the Scriptures, we came away blushing that we knew so little of them. In our converse with poor saints, and you got to remember, this Charles Spurgeon, he is esteemed, he's been called like the Prince of Preachers, and even in his day, in the 1800s, he was sort of a giant. I don't like using that, and I don't think he would either, but when he talks about poor saints, and he goes, he had command of he was mighty in the word, and very articulate, very even poetic, I would say, but he is saying that when he would go to the sickbed, of someone dying of plague or whatever, he would come away realizing he knew so little of the Scriptures, and he was taught by trying to minister to those who maybe were not so mighty in the word of him. But in our converse with poor saints, we are taught the way of God more perfectly for ourselves and get a deeper insight into divine truth. And I also will add the insights that he's shared that I've read. There's a fantastic set called the Treasuries of David. It's a 3-volume set on the Psalms, and if you, it is to the Psalms what the Psalms are to if the Psalms never existed. Let me shooting that from the hip, just to give you an idea how wonderful it can be to have that when you read or try to understand a psalm. And if the Psalms have ever been comfort to you, please get that. You can actually get it for free online. But at any rate, what I wanted to say was that we're taught the way of God more perfectly ourselves and get a deeper insight into divine truth. How many, quote unquote, poor saints must that man have ministered to have the deeper insights he clearly set down in writing for us? It is a real gift, what a wonderful servant. Now I've heard him called a false teacher. I don't really know where that is or where that might be in his doctrine, but I can tell you that the gifts that he exercised himself in and shared with us belie any accusation to that effect. But I would, anyway. So that watering. Okay, let me start again. In our converse with poor saints, we are taught the way of God more perfectly for ourselves and get a deeper insight into divine truth, so that watering others makes us humble. We discover how much, and there you go, when I do this, even though I know I sound pushy, or maybe even I sound like I'm talking down to someone like they're ignorant, and I'm really not, but doing what I'm doing, it makes me more humble. It makes me realize what I don't know. Anyway, we discover how much grace there is where we had not looked for it, and how much the poor saint may outstrip us in knowledge. Our own comfort is also increased by our working for others. We endeavor to cheer them, and the consolation gladdens our own heart. And you know, brothers and sisters, you know it's true. When you do something more, it's more blessed to give than receive. You know this. You know it. You've done it. Like the two men in the snow. One chafed at the other's limbs to keep him from dying, and in so doing kept his own blood in circulation and saved his own life. The poor widow of Sarepta gave from her scanty store a supply for the prophet's wants, and from that day she never again knew what want was. Now, I believe this, I'm a little rusty in this. I'm pretty sure this has to do with the widow who had like enough to make 2 cakes or something, but I think it was Elijah or Elisha, one or the other. I'm pretty sure Elijah. He found her and said, you know, woman, make me... oh, I just get sexist. Oh, what fun times we're living in. Woman, make me something to eat or something like that. And she barely had anything, and then it was multiplied. Similarly, in a sense, to what Jesus did in feeding in the story of the loaves and the fishes, where he took a boy who had a little basket of lunch for himself, and the Lord he gave it to the Lord, and the Lord multiplied it and fed multitudes. And it's true. It's true. You know, Jesus, not his real name, was a real figure, and these stories are not just myths, as so many would these days. We know it's probably always been as many, but we know it's so many now because we just have more access to them, or they're in our face more through the media because of our the capabilities we have with internet and things like that. The poor widow of Sarepta gave from her scanty store a supply for the prophet's wants, and from that day she never knew again what want was. Give then, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down and running over. That's beautiful. So I wanted to share that because I am trying to kind of draw this to a close, and I don't really have many viewers. I'm going to leave these things up here for a while for whatever it's worth, and the things that are useful about them will continue to be useful, even though they may not seem contemporaneous because they're dated. They're all dated. They have a date, and they're dealing with the news of the day. But as we've seen, or I've talked about even in the last day or two, I'm saying the same old things every day. In a sense, it's just a new talking pieces, really, to say the same things about. And maybe one day I will go through them myself and filter it out and distill it all down into a little bit of an essay, if you will, on the news with some examples I can pull out. You know, maybe that's what this is all about. I don't know. But here's what I want to share mainly. Okay, this is how we're going to do it today, a little different. Again, that reading that devotional is a little different. And what I used to do, to those who may be first time or newer, my original ones, I would go through and I put a little blood red dot next to each article and link that was doom, gloom, uncertainty, and through that I would show the ratio of all the bad news that is being purveyed and served up on a platter for us, but the new software that I've been using, I can't do that because it won't catch the overlay. Anyway, skipping all that. So we all know, we've all heard about global warming, new ice age, whatever. They got what was it? Now it's climate change because, we've had the record cold. Well, we don't say global warming anymore. They've changed the language. As I've said many a time, that language is extremely important to the powers that shouldn't be. And that's why most of us have been conditioned to call children kids, because that means goats. They're little goats. The Bible say that at the end that the Lord will separate the sheep from the goats. You're calling your children goats. Now you may think, it's just a word. That's not what it means. That's not how I take it. That's not what I think of when it... Okay. Words have the power of life is in the tongue. Power of death and life is in the tongue, Bible say. And we're made after the image of God. He spoke things into existence. And, before you say, you're like the name it, claim it, idiots. No, I'm not. I'm telling you about realities, that everything is energy, and intention and spirit. And well, that sounds new agey, doesn't it? But what I mean is that when you are referring to your children as kids, when you could easily use the word children, it's one more syllable, one more, and it carries a whole. Isn't it a more beautiful word? If you have a child or you have a kid, oh yeah, my kids. I gotta get my kids. I gotta pick up my kids. Well, I work really hard. I take care of my kids. Oh, I didn't know you're a farmer. You got goats? No, I have children. Yes, you have children. You have children. All right, there's your. You can have that for free. Okay, if you never heard me say that before, there's other words, but the words are powerful. So environmental concerns. Anyway, what I'm doing here. So I just looked at what the headlines were. The first one was Fed set thermostats to 82 while you sleep. Now, at first I thought this might have something to do with the, today is a Fed day in the markets. They're the notes are going to be anyway. The point is, in this weekend they're meeting in Jackson Hole. I thought it had to do with that, so I clicked on it, and it has to do with. In fact, here it is over here. Federal Energy Federal Energy Program suggests keeping thermostat at 78. So it goes on. I just scanned it. It goes on to improve air quality and the environment, and record-breaking heat waves. Of course, what's the subtext? I always talk about subtext, context, and non-text. We're talking about what? It may not say it overtly. I have not read all this, but you can be sure that it's one of those, again, just like a symphony, you may hear a plucking of a harp string way in the background, but it's all important. One note. There's not generally one note in a symphony that was not written down and planned and pre-planned. And you better believe that conductor knows every part of every performer, and he knows when to pull one out for emphasis, and that's what he has a little stick for and points to him, and you know what I mean. My point being is that everything they put in front of you, as I've said many times, is important. So here we go. Environmental concerns. I made this list here, called it key subtext. And I want to show you how all of the notes are hit almost every day. Now, I'm using the Drudge Report. It could be whatever, okay? I do this because it's almost a joke, since it's the most conservative, most popular conservative news aggregate in the entire world, as far as I know. I believe it is, and I'm using it specifically because, as Pink Floyd say, "Ha ha, charade, you are," right? It's a joke. Okay, it's a joke. People go there for their echo chamber, just like they do to see it, MSNBC and stuff. Anyway, what am I saying? Okay, environmental concerns. What could I have here? Death and dying. You could also add gloom, gloom and doom, confusion / mixed messages, rumors of wars, brother rising against brother. So in the verses are in the description. In Luke 21. Now I always have Matthew 24 when the disciples asked him, "What is the sign of your return to the end of the age?" And the first thing out of his holy mouth was, "Take heed that no man deceive you." And that's what we're doing here. That's what I'm doing here. Because I pray to be in the truth, and one of the things that I've been fortunate to realize is that we're being lied to and deceived on every conceivable level. There is some touch and taint of lying, deception, misdirection, confusion, mind control, propaganda, domination. Really, it's domination. Mind control is subjugation and domination. Make no mistake about it. Do you want to be someone's slave? Do you want to be subjugated and dominated? Oh, well, maybe you do. Maybe you've read Shades of Grey and that gets you off. Maybe you really want to be tied up. I don't know. Well, I don't. Okay? I don't. I want to be a free individual. I want to be my own man. I don't want to be told what to think, how to think it by other fallen men and women who, by and large, the ones that the scum that rises to the top are pretty scummy, yet they want to lord over you. All right, so Luke 21, 7 through 11 says, "And they asked him, saying, 'Master, when shall these things be?'" This is 2,000 years ago, brothers and sisters, right? "And what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass?" And he said, "Take heed that ye be not deceived. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draws near. Go ye not after them. But when you shall hear of wars and commotions. Now, I want to bring out, see, there's wars and rumors of wars. You've probably heard that, and that's how I wrote it in here. Okay. But commotions, I should probably add this, and I will. Now, if I go to Luke 21, and I look at that word, commotions, in the Greek, it means instability, disorder, commotion, confusion, tumult. And it's akatastasia is how you pronounce akatastasia. Akatastasia. There you go. Maybe I got it. Maybe I hit it. Akatastasia. Well, I'm not going to try to say that 3 times fast, okay? So, especially since usually in the morning I've listened back to some of my stuff, I kind of stutter stop a bit. I haven't really got my motor working, but it's a little later this morning. I mean, I'm doing better. So he says that there'll be wars and commotions, but don't be. One moment. Be not terrified. Well, I will tell you that many people, it does say in the end that in the end times, men's heart shall fail them for fear. What's one of the leading killers in this country anyway? Let's just talk us, U.S., U.S. Us. Let's just talk us. You like that? So let's just talk us. What's one of the leading? Let me pull that up. Let me just yeah, I wanted to make this a short one, didn't I? Let me just do that. Well, I don't always know where this is going because once it kicks off, there's a certain energy. I'm pretty sure that heart disease is like number 1 or number 2. I believe heart disease is number 1 for women. Okay, leading cause of heart disease in the United States. So I'm pulling this up. All right. Let's just go to the CDC. Fast stats. I'll pull this over here. Heart disease. Well, that's not fear, isn't it? Do you know what stress, fear is stress, doom, gloom, tension, anxiety does to cortisol, does to your arteries, does to all kinds of things in your body? I mean, I'm no expert in it by any means. But fear. Let's see what that word is in Greek in fear. Oh, yeah, you didn't know this is going to be a little bit of a Bible study. Well, we got to frame things in the Word of God, and to frame them in the Word of God, we need to understand what it says. So, well, it says terrified. Let's see what terrified is. And I should look up that verse about feeling them for fear. Frightened. Okay. So let me just quickly, let me finish reading this, and then I'll go find that. Okay. Yeah, go here. This is what's in the description. When you shall hear of wars and commotions. Now he didn't say if, he said when, right? Be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Then he said to them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines, and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. Well, I tried to hit all these things, and I used other ways it's expressed because it's not the only place in the Bible where this is these ideas and also the Master himself are quoted. Confusion, mixed messages, rumors of wars, brother rising against brother, earthquakes, pestilences, as it was in the days of Noah. I don't know if he didn't say that in that one. But he does say in another place, Bible say, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man, which means, his return. Vanity and fables. It says there'll be those who give heed to fables and things like that. Let's see, lying signs and wonders. So I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, but let's go real quick over here, and I'm going to look up, let's see, failing them. Just look failing. Can't be in the Bible that many times. Here we go. Oh, it's in the same chapter, a little further down. Luke 21:26. See, I'm rusty. There we go. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon. This starting at 25. and the subheading of this this section of verses is the coming of the Son of Man, which means his return, right? Will be the end of time. There, as we know it, there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, and the seas and waves roaring, men's heart failing them for fear, and looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then they shall see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws nigh. See, it says, and this is important, and when these things begin to come and pass. Remember, when we're hearing these things, the end is not yet. It's near, but it's not yet, right? But then we need to be looking up, because he also says no man knows the day or the hour. I got to finish reading this, right? And he spoke to them in a parable. Behold the fig tree and all the trees. What they now shoot forth, you see and know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand. Well, brothers and sisters, in just a couple weeks, you'll know that summer is now almost over, and fall is at hand. I want you to remember, when you see those first leaves turning color over the next, actually days, I've already seen a couple, as the nights get cooler. When you see in September some leaves start to change, and oh, it's beautiful, yes, right? But remember that you are seeing the signs all around you that these are the last days. Now, I know there are those who will say, it's always been this way. There's always been earthquakes. There's always been disease. There's always been wars. Well, what about the number of them? What about the fact that now you have the technology? You're hearing them from diverse places everywhere. How long did it take to hear about an earthquake that happened somewhere, lands away? By the time you heard about it, it might have been years old, right? These are the days. Okay, I don't know how to. It's one of those situations where, for those who believe and understand, like the Master said many times, those who have ears to hear, let them hear. So you have ears to hear it, or you don't. If you don't, I'm telling you that you need to pray and ask to, heal my blindness, because you can't see. And if you're hard-hearted and want to say I'm crazy or others like me, great. Go ahead. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Right? Thanks for flying Uncle Benny's Creepy Campfire Stories Airlines. Bye-bye. All right. So likewise, when you see these things come to pass, know you that the kingdom of God is near at hand. Verily I say to you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. Now, there is teaching on why he said this generation, meaning are they still alive today and watching, and till all this is fulfilled. I'm not going to go into that right now, but there is understanding that whereas first this seems to say one thing, it doesn't. Okay, it does mean for these times. All right, so I got to continue. It says, watch yourselves. Take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting, drunkenness, and the cares of this life, so that day come upon you unaware. Well, I'm sure I'm guilty of all of these things. There's hardly a sin that I've ever heard or read about that, to one degree or another, that I with Paul could say I'm the chief of sinners. Surfeiting. I forget what that means. I don't know if that means has something to do with eating. I can't remember. Let me look up just a moment. I know that you're looking at a dead screen here, but let me excess, basically. Intemperate or moderate indulgence in something such as food or drink. Gluttony. Whatever it is. You could be surfeiting on sports binging, I would say. So, we need each other to help us walk circumspectly. It's another reason I'm doing this is, it's like I don't always think this way as far as thinking of the end days. I don't. It's I try to, and since I've been doing this, I do more and more. This has been good. It's stirring up things within me. It's good, And I hope it does to you. And I hope it encourages you to do your own, focusing on the fact that, we need to, a lot of things fall away. Things get into perspective really quickly when you realize, first of all, my day is coming personally sooner or later. I don't know when. Try to take care of myself, but you never know. But the end of the world is then, or it's when I'm healthy and walking upright, but here he comes in the cloud of glory, Well, these are the days. Do you think a merciful God's going to let the number of people who are lost today be lost? He came into the world to save sinners. He came in the world not to condemn the world, but to save us all. He is not willing that any should perish, yet more and more people are being born every single day, and the population is growing. As he said, go forth, be fruitful, and multiply. I don't have any children, but I ought to have 20, The fact is that many children, to the tune of like 800 every single day, 800 children are being scraped out of a faithless woman's womb every single day. Lost in a lost world. And that's so many million, I don't know how many a year, right? Or how many millions have been wiped out in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Iraq, Iran, all those areas, right? The people have been wholesale slaughtered in just the last, 30, 40 years, 50 years, right? And that's just two theaters, as the military guys like to call them. The theater. Yeah, it's theater, all right. Maybe to them it's not real. They're all just props. Did you ever think about that? Think about language. I'm in theater. Means you're over there at the war scene. I'm in theater. No, theater is what you do in that big vacuous building at your college or, at your high school when you're doing a play. War is not theater. It is to the game players. It is to the ones who are playing the world like a game of Risk or chess, for themselves. All right, so again, going longer than I wanted to. I'm not going to go through these articles. Don't worry. I'm not really going to go through it. I really just wanted to point out what this is all about and show you how in a single day, and you could make your own list, and I encourage you to do it. And do it as an exercise. If you go to church somewhere, you have a Sunday school or a Bible study class, maybe challenge each other. Everybody goes to different news sites and aggregates. Say how many every day when you go to the news, see if you can see how many boxes get ticked. Now, sometimes people may not understand, for example, as it was in the days of Noah. Well, this has to do when the rains came and he and his family, he had built the ark and he was shut up in the ark. The ark was sealed from the outside, which is a picture of Christ sealing us with he seals us, right? He saves us and seals us. Noah did not shut himself in the ark. The ark was sealed with pitch on the outside. Who did that? Okay, it's a picture of Christ being the author of our salvation. A foreshadowing, if you will. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a shadow. Foreshadow. I don't think that's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, so this had to do with Daily Star UK News World. Chinese company launches mass sale of, well, I'll tell you. Right here. Chinese company launched mass sale of cloned cats after recreating its first kitten. Now, I believe it may even be a Western guy who's practicing this in an Asian area where he can get away with it. I think that's what's going on. And that's just what we've heard about and know about. I don't remember the specifics. Maybe you know better than I do, but about this story. But wasn't there recently a cloning between a hybrid between a human and a pig, or human and a goat, something like that? Of course, they're like, oh no, it's just for science, just for medical, just so we can make things to graft skin, and right? Okay. Well, what's this have to do with the days of Noah? Well, I know that the way that we're educated in the government re-education camps and value replacement centers, in other words, public schools, is that you're taught that everything pre 1950-ish was black and white, and people were simple and not as smart, and the technology was a lot more crude. And the further back you go, you start, incrementally going back and devolving to the Stone Age. Well, brothers and sisters, I'm here to tell you that there's plenty of evidence to show that, there's nothing new under the sun. And, we're not the first to be able to do these kind of things when it has to do with genetic types of, have that kind of technology and ability. What am I speaking of? I'm speaking of Genesis 6, when the fallen angels took wives. Now, what does that mean, they took wives? Oh, they started dating them. They asked for their hand in marriage. They were good-looking fallen angels, and they just, the women went goo-goo gaga over them. No, they stole them. They abducted them. They took them by force. Okay? These were not nice beings. They saw what they wanted, and they took it. And they, being angels, mating with angels can take the shape of man, we're told. You can entertain an angel and not even be aware of it. What's that mean? You could sit down and you could somebody could help you change your tire, and they go off, and they may have been an angel and you didn't know it. I mean, a real angel, and you don't know it. Or you could sit down and eat with someone that you don't really know and not realize it's an angel. Lord has sent an angel to you for some reason, That's what Bible say, that you'll entertain angels unaware. You won't know it's an angel. Now, the world would have you believe, and there was an article or a video the other day, some guy in Michigan videotaped this nebulous cloud over his pickup truck, and, it does look like kind of wings type stuff. And so, the world wants to have you believe that angels are like these winged creatures, well, there are in heaven, there is descriptions of creatures around the throne of God, but what I'm talking about, the angels that we've ever heard about on the earth did not have these. They weren't 30 feet tall and had, big Victoria's Secret type of wings. I hate to mix that in there, but that's just a reference point, okay? All right, so what do I want to say here? What was I looking up? No, I don't remember. I don't remember. You do, but I don't, and I'm sorry. I know I got to move on. Keep the act moving, Show must go on. I don't remember what I was talking about. Oh yeah, maybe was it the human pig cloning? I don't know. Was I going to look that up? It doesn't matter. Let me move this back in here. I don't know what I was going to look up now. Okay, so let's just go through here again. Federal. We already talked about this. Death and dying. Now this is just today. Okay. Death and dying, doom and gloom. So scientists, blood tester predicts whether you'll die in the next 10 years. Here's the headline right here. This, by the way, this is changing. It updates all the time. So right up here in the corner, think about dying. Oh, should I get that test? Am I going to die in the next 10 years? Remember, there's always these messages that are within that. Okay, anyway, death and dying, confusion, mixed messages. So I talked about this yesterday's video where Trump says he's considering payroll tax cut despite White House denial. So here you have, a house divided cannot stand. We've heard that said, right? So here you've got the White House denying it, but Trump, isn't he the White House, right? He's considering a payroll tax cut, but the White House denying it. We get a lot of confusion and mixed messages about the state of the economy. That's all I'm trying to say. Let's see here. Rumors of wars. All right. Japan warns North Korea warns that North Korea has now miniaturized nukes small enough to fit on its ballistic missiles and is a, quote, serious and imminent threat. Rumors of wars, right? Be afraid. Be very afraid, right? That's what they're saying. That's the subtext. Okay, so that's brought to you for your daily bread, right? There you go. Tick that box. Brother rising against brother. Well, this situation is, you can find plenty of examples, but this is what I just happened to pick up out of the news today. Beatings, murders, prisoners set on fire. Inside prison called gangland something or other. I'm not interested in reading the article. These guys have already risen against their brother. That's probably why they're in prison, most of them. I mean, there are probably some innocent people in there too, unfortunately. And people who have committed crimes they shouldn't be in prison for. But at any rate, because make no mistake, there's so many laws on the books. We're continually making laws. The more laws you have, the more likely that people are going to be in violation. Every single one of us could be found to be in some violation of some law that could be we could be in trouble for. It's on purpose. It is on purpose. Make no mistake. Whether men devised it or the wicked powers, the spirit of this age is devising it through the puppets of men. Either way, that's the reality. Okay. So you may think that you're a good guy and a law-abiding citizen and you don't really even speed. You've never had a speeding ticket. You hold the door for people when they go inside a building. You clean up. If you go to any kind of function, you volunteer to clean up. You may just be, you do everything right. You tick all the boxes. You follow all the laws. I'll tell you something, my friend. If you knew all the laws and ordinances of your state, your area, and of the federal situation, I think that we'd find something to string you up on. Yeah, it may not be something you could go to prison for, but you could certainly be fined or just have a real hassle. You could have a real hassle and a blight on your name possibly, Anyway, that's an aside. But brother rising against brother, so we got something there, ticks that box. And that's what's important. It's not that, okay, these guys are in prison. Does that really count? It does. They're human beings too. Brother rising against brother. Could say sister against sister. Man against man. Men against women. Women against men. Women beat men. Steal from them. Stab them. You name it. Earthquakes. Are you really aware that almost every day lately there's been something about earthquakes? If not daily, let's just say weekly. Kind of like the sharks. Lots of stuff about sharks. Now, Jesus didn't say anything about sharks that I could find out. But anyway, Jesus not his real name, I must always say. This is, okay, earthquake. I'll move this out of the way. Okay, Japan. Scientists finally know how big earthquakes start with many smaller ones. All right, is this talking about an earthquake today that you need to be afraid of? No, but there was one yesterday, something about all these earthquakes in Kansas, I believe. If I'm not, I'm not going to go look it up. But there you go. There's a big old thing on earthquakes. All right, so what's the next one? Pestilences, right? Here we go. Now, this one's kind of minor, but this isn't necessarily on the scale of Ebola and the measles now breaking out all over the place around here and pushing for vaccinations, in a sense. But chickenpox and flu. Migrants are getting sick at U.S.-Mexico border. Well, the point is, again, we're hearing about pestilences, diseases all the time. This is just one variation of it, This could help fuel the people's belief in that we need vaccinations because of the people coming in here who are carrying things, right? Vaccinations, yeah. There was a life before vaccinations. I'm not saying that there aren't positives to certain medications, but what's it become? What is it now? Are vaccinations the same as they were when I was a little child? Or have they changed? What's in them? Has that changed? What about, and a big part of one of the objections to it is you take an infant or a very, very, very young human being, and the schedule for when they get these multiple shots or the multiple things they're being vaccinated against is just, it's so accelerated. There are some people who are only anti-vaccination for that reason alone, that they would do vaccinations, but they do not want that kind of a trauma or change so rapidly at such an early age, Anyway, okay, so moving on. Remember, what we're doing is I'm just talking about, we're ticking all the boxes here of what you get on a daily platter, your daily lunch special, your daily breakfast special, whenever you decide to hit up the news. Pestilences, there you go. Pulled one off, just, like low-hanging fruit. There's one. Wasn't the choicest fruit. Wasn't an Ebola scare, but that's around. It wasn't the measles big problem and everybody's got to get vaccinated. We're locking you down in New York, and if you're not vaccinated, you have to stay inside. Something, I forgot what it was. When there a few months ago, there was almost martial law over the measles, and I made jokes about, hey, I'm throwing a measles party. You know what that is? That's where when the people used to get sick with the measles, smart mothers would say, let's just all get the measles and get it over with. Brilliant. Okay. As it was in the days of Noah. Okay, I already talked about this. We'll move on. There's plenty of other things, by the way, that have to do with as it was in the days of Noah. We could talk about the entertainments. There's so much being presented about fallen angels and superhumans, hybrids, basically. Okay, that goes on to giants. Now, this has to do with, I want to refer you to a book there's other books, by the way. There's other information. You don't even have to buy a book. Just start trolling around on YouTube and listen to some interviews and just start getting getting exposure to the ideas, and you'll start to find it through prayer, and you'll be led into the truth if you really want to know the truth of things. Gary Wayne, Canadian, wrote a very well-researched book called Genesis 6 Conspiracy, and it has to do with last days and with what we're seeing now and what happened in Genesis 6 and how it relates to today. Very, very much so. And I don't know if he talks, I can't remember if he's talking much about UFOs, but definitely giants and hybrids and this kind of thing. So here's one. Okay, we talked about the cloning. Vanity and Fables. Now this one was easy pickings. I keep saying that the Drudge Report is a started as a Hollywood gossip column and a Washington, D.C. gossip column by Matt Drudge in Hollywood out of his bedroom, and it still is what I say, because we're always being presented celebrity news information. Here's Lena Dunham. Here's about David Bowie. It's mixed in with the news. This has to do with digital pop stars like cartoons in Japan, gamers risking health bids to become esports millionaires. This has to do with vanity, not just fables and fiction and fictitious characters who are now the prince and royalty of our culture, meaning celebrities. Jay-Z, Keanu Reeves, something about the Matrix. All right, so let's move that out of the way here. Talked about this. Okay, this goes to lying signs and wonders. Weird repeating signals from deep space just tripled. Now, it could be UFOs over Phoenix. It could be strange lights over wherever. We've had that in recent weeks. The Area 51 situation is gaining attention because next month we're going to demand disclosure. We're going to find out what's really going on and what alien technology the government really has. Well, first of all, my conclusions on that, and I've talked about this before, and I'm not going to repeat it all. There are not little green men from Alpha Centauri, Zeta Reticuli, the Pleiades, you name it, Saturn, Mars, Jupiter, wherever. That's not what's going on. These are fallen angels. This has to do with fallen angels and demonic stuff, So, and there is a distinction, by the way, between demons and fallen angels, but that's not the scope of this. That's not my purview right now. That's not my purview. No, that's just not the scope of this video. So the weird repeating signals from deep space just tripled. Well, what does this indicate? It's like, we're getting communicated to. We're picking up. We finally, the SETI project, SETY, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, I believe it stands for. We're getting somewhere with that. Millions and billions of light years from Earth. Oh yeah, we're way out on the backwaters of the universe. We are very insignificant. They want the powers that shouldn't be want us to believe we evolved from slime. There is no God, and that life is meaningless. That's what they're teaching your kids who were once children. They're making them kids. Okay. So, all right, that fits in the category of lying signs and wonders. And, this is just today. It could be other things. That's just what happened. I just pulled only what was on the Drudge Report, Give it tomorrow or a week from now. It could be 4 saucer-shaped craft, buzzed the Sears Tower or something, right? Is it called the Sears Tower anymore? I don't remember. Okay, I don't need to talk about this. I didn't even read this or know how I was going to fit that in here about the Epstein deal. Okay, one little last note, and this is different than this. I talked about the El Paso alleged shooting. There's always a hero and always a victim. What do I mean by always a victim? Of course there are victims. There are all these people allegedly shot and killed, right? Well, no, I mean there's always in these stories. In fact, I really want to put together sort of a there's just like when you learn about story writing or things like this, you always have the protagonist and the antagonist. You have the character development, you have the climax of the story, the conclusion. You have all these parts of a story. You have all the different characters. In the Thousand Oaks shooting, in 9/11, you had Todd Beamer, let's roll. You had the hero, right? In the Thousand Oaks shooting, you had, I forgot his first name, Adler, who owned a coffee shop and coached the Little League and all these things and was right up at the door of the security guard. He was a hero. So they always have a hero person, right? Or they always have someone who was a tragic victim, and this lends credibility to the reality of the story. Now, was anyone killed? I don't know. I still don't know. I don't know for sure, but this goes on in kind of whether it's true or not. The purpose of this, not the purpose. One of the effects of this story is to bring reality to the situation, also to pull those heartstrings, to remind you of the tragedy in another way, to bring out compassion, all these things towards the victims. They're real victims. Thieves stole a pressure washer. They stole his car. Let's see here. He had his SUV stolen. It was stolen and wrecked on the day of his wife's funeral. Well, really? How sometimes these stories, maybe that happened. I'm not saying it didn't. I don't know. But it's just always curious that it's like so, what's the word? Maximized, tweaked, enhanced. The story's enhanced because it happened on the day of his wife's funeral. It just happened to be on the day of his, how more impactful can you make the story to make it newsworthy and to get out on the wires, right? To get legs. If he just gotten his SUV stolen, a week ago before the funeral or weeks later, would it make national news? But the day of her funeral, oh God, look at that. What a poor guy, Not only that, he stole a pressure washer they used to make his living. Oh God, this guy didn't have bad luck. He'd have no luck at all, right? Well, it turns around, Casa Ford, Lincoln Nissan gave him a new Ford Escape. These people gave him a new trailer. I don't know what had to do with this trailer. Maybe they stole that too. I don't know. But at any rate, he embodies the spirit of El Paso. There you go. So you're going to always find somebody that embody, like Todd Beamer embodied the spirit of America, and that every hero, every wannabe hero, every true hero, every courageous man who thinks that I would do the same thing, let's roll. I love you, honey. And you hear in the background, let's roll. And they rush, and the plane ends up crashing. Well, did it? Oh, did I lose? Did you stick with me up to here? And you just now went flying out of the back of the wagon on that left turn? Well, I make no apologies for it. If you don't know by now that 9/11 is not what it appears to be, things didn't happen as they said it happened. It wasn't done by who they say it was done by. And if you think a plane crashed in Virginia that was it Pennsylvania, that was Flight 93, you're a ding dong. I'm sorry to tell you, you eat donuts for breakfast every day and probably put milk in your Pepsi and pineapple on your pizza. You're a silly person. Consider the evidence. Look at that hole in the ground again. Listen to eyewitness testimony, and then ask yourself why. Well, because it didn't happen that way. And the point is, though, is that Todd Roll became this great big hero. Now, whatever, was there a real, did I say Todd Roll? Excuse me. Todd Beamer became a great big hero, and I've seen and heard of his wife. And do I know whether he really died? Was he a real person? I don't know if that's true or not. And I don't mean no slander on his family, but if he was a real person, and as some evidence suggests that those planes were landed and other planes were used, or even images of planes, which that's a completely different subject and topic, but it has a lot of credibility. What did they do with those people? If they really took people and took a real airline and then substituted that plane, what happened? They reportedly landed in Cleveland. What happened to them? They made their cell phone calls from somewhere on the ground. And that's another story. You need to look into it. What happened to those people? Did they gas them all on the plane? I don't know. But then they concocted a story. You believe me, if you can watch a show like Seinfeld or Curb Your Enthusiasm, for example, and see how all these storylines and humorous things are woven together so expertly and brilliantly that it's really very entertaining, very amusing, very astonishing, very stimulating. It's wonderful. You don't think that the people who are running these other scripts in this other theater aren't as capable? So if the whole inventions around the story of Let's Roll are fiction, and Todd Beamer was a real man who lost his life, it's very sad and tragic, and all the more reason that you ought to want to know the truth, because there might be somebody listening to this now or later who says, well, you're offensive to the families of 9/11. Oh, is that right? Well, do you know how many of them objected to having who they put the 9/11 commission to be? They petitioned and they got Henry Kissinger taken off of it, and different people they knew it was going to be slanted. And then they have challenged the official story, and that there are many, many victims of 9/11 that did not die in planes, did not die in the buildings, and did not die, even being firefighters, the first responders that died. What about all the victims of U.S. soldiers that went to Iraq after that, and Afghanistan? What about all the Afghanis and all the Iraqis who died? Men, women, and children, and old, elderly people, and handicapped, and think about Down syndrome people over there that were murdered, or think about the new generations of deformities because of depleted uranium in our weapons that were left or used over there. It's horrific. Just go look at pictures, and you sing that song, Proud to Be an American. Well, you can be proud to be an American if you're a true American, but if you're just a follower, shame on you. Wake up. You can decide today that, God damn it, I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And you decide, and you get on your knees and you pray to God, God, give me wisdom, open my eyes, show me the truth. I want to be in the truth. Circumcise my heart, make me know the truth, renew my mind, help me to be hungry to know the truth. Give me discernment, and help me to be bold as a lion. Make a great day.